Hey guys, we've completed analyzing text to see how the modes and design elements are combined to make meaning. And using those same modes and design elements, we now want to examine how they are used rhetorically or used to persuade an audience. Our learning objectives for this lesson are 1. To identify how the modes, visual, linguistic, oral, spatial, and gestural, and design elements are used in a text to persuade audiences to believe, to feel, or to act in a certain way. And the second objective, is to identify rhetorical elements in a multimodal text. These include seeing the means of persuasion, logos, ethos, and pathos, and the elements of a text rhetorical situation, and that is its audience, its message, its claim or thesis, its purpose, its exigence, and its author. We'll begin with Aristotle and the means of persuasion, and basically we're going to ask, if Aristotle were doing a rhetorical analysis of a visual text, what would Aristotle do? So let's go back to the Target versus Walmart shoppers meme that we examined in the previous lesson. Aristotle would first ask, what is the claim? The claim here also means, what is the text thesis? What allegation does it make? So here, the message that we determined in the previous lesson was people, or at least some of them anyway, who shop at Target look down on people who shop at Walmart. We could also say that the message is people who shop at Target think they are better than people who shop at Walmart, or that some people wrongly think very highly of themselves. Anyway, we know that shopping at one store over another does not necessarily make people better or worse than others. We know that spending more or less money does not define a person's character or establish their worthiness or their goodness. But some of us do believe in such things. We believe that what we wear, especially if it's expensive, makes us at least appear better. We think that the larger the diamond on that wedding ring, the more we are loved by its giver, or possibly the more we are loved than others who have smaller diamonds on their fingers. People believe, or at least make these kinds of interpretations. Even when we know better, because so many others have these beliefs or make these kinds of interpretations, we partake in them anyway. For example, I know that wearing a $200 shirt will make me no different and no better a person than if I wore a $5 t-shirt. But it will make me appear in the eyes of others as if I'm successful and wealthy. So in this case, I go along with it and succumb to it because it affects what other people think about me. So let's go back to our meme. If we know that Target shoppers are not really better than Walmart shoppers, then what is the claim? Aristotle would certainly attempt to determine what the claim is so that he can determine how the author attempts to prove it. And so we should do that too. And while it may first appear that Walmart shoppers are being targeted, and no pun intended there, Target shoppers are actually this text victims. People who look down on Walmart shoppers just because they buy their sundries at Target wrongly think of themselves as superior or better or wealthier than their Walmart counterparts. In this ad for Eau de Gaga perfume, Lady Gaga is surrounded by submissive men. Their body language and the fact that her knee is resting on top of one of the men's chests suggests that she has power over these men. Also notice the visual effects that has the men somewhat dismembered or sliced as if they're incomplete or not together. Gaga does not suffer this affliction. The men are facing downwards as Gaga looks into the camera. She's making eye contact and they are gesturing submission. So what does this have to do with perfume? What is the claim? I would argue that something like Eau de Gaga perfume will make its wearers powerful, or that it will make men submit to them. The perfume will make you attractive, irresistible, and powerful. That is the claim. How is this claim proven? The visual and gestural elements I just mentioned help. We also have celebrity ethos. Lady Gaga is not an unknown person. And once you determine your text claim, then you can better make sense of how its modal and design elements help to prove that the claim is true, or that the audience should believe it. In this meme, what is the claim? And here, I would guess that targeting social media users who call others ignorant while not realizing their own ignorance, something along those lines. Then we ask, how's it proven, right? We determine the claim, now how is it proven? And here we certainly have gestural elements. The woman in the left panel is obviously angry and very emotional. She's crying, pointing, and appears to be yelling. So this casts social media users as irrational. The cat The intelligent opposition here has a calm and almost smug expression. We have the linguistic elements, your, Y-O-U-R, and the contraction of U-R, Y-O-U apostrophe R-E. This certainly helps to make sense of the meme. This one relies on pathos. Not the woman's apparent anger, though, but the humor and the juxtaposition of the smug feline and the angry woman. The cat, who we know cannot spell in real life, is correcting the misspellings of a social media user. So the audience is supposed to laugh along with the author at social media users. So Aristotle would also ask if the claim or the message is debatable. Do target shoppers honestly believe they are better than other people because of where they shop? Some of them would argue no, they don't believe that. Will Eau de Gaga perfume really make women powerful? Will it make men submit? These are debatable claims. Are all social media users irrational and unintelligent? No, not all of them. Does being irrational make a person unintelligent? No. Is correct spelling a sign of emotional maturity and intelligence? No. Here, the debate over abortion has two sides, pro-life and pro-choice. The claims of both sides are debatable, and they frequently argue the issue. But here, the claim that 2 + 2 = 4 is not debatable. However, this is a meme, and the claim could be that this guy debates for the sake of doing so. It also claims that regardless of how non-debatable a claim, some will engage in debating it anyway. This guy, and I can't think of his name, goes around college campuses to debate with unsuspecting college students. Depending on your political views, you could draw opposing conclusions about this meme's claim. For example, this guy will debate anyone about anything, regardless of how true or untrue his position. Alternatively, you could argue that college students are so ignorant, they will argue that this equation is wrong. You need to know the context of this meme, its rhetorical situation, and we will talk about that later in this lesson. The point for now is that for rhetoric to work, the claim must be debatable. An image that claims Baton Rouge is the capital of Louisiana is not a debatable claim. It is a statement of fact, and the text is informational and probably has no rhetorical purpose. Once Aristotle determines what is the claim and that the claim is debatable, he would then ask what means of persuasion are being used to prove it up. In other words, what modal and design elements are being used to convince audiences to believe the claim, and how are they being used to persuade the audience? In this social media post, we are asked to logically deduce from a list of pros and cons that getting a college education is not worth the time and expense. Through Megan and Mark, we are to determine that Megan's 4 years of school is longer and worse than Mark's 1 year of apprenticeship. She is in debt. He is not. Mark has a job, Megan does not, and she, like our target shoppers, wrongly thinks herself better than Mark. Here, a list of pros and cons are meant to persuade us that college is not worth the time and tuition. In this meme or this post or this public service announcement, we are asked not to drink and drive because it may result in sorrow, regret, sadness, and other bad feelings or emotions. This sad woman is apparently locked in the back of a police car. She's no longer free, and she's sad and has to look upon the damages that she has caused another person. We are asked, who did she kill? This prompts curiosity. Her expression, her fingers pressed against the glass, and the rain all contribute to sad regret. And that is pathos, when we appeal to the audience's emotions to persuade them or to move them. Here, ethos is the means of persuasion used to sell a sports drink. Steph Curry is a celebrity athlete, and if he, a successful professional athlete, drinks muscle milk, then it must be good. So I should buy some for myself. Here we are relying on the authority, the credibility, or the trustworthiness of the speaker or of an author to persuade audiences to do something. Recall these crest ads from the previous lesson. I told you we would come back to these, so let's take a quick look at each. The purpose of each of these ads is to sell mouthwash and toothpaste. The ad in the top left relies on logos. It uses linguistic elements to tell viewers what its benefits are. The ad in the top middle relies on pathos. It uses gestural elements, the sad kid. It uses visual design elements to shadows cast over the kid's eyes and face. and the contrast between light and dark. It also uses the spatial mode. The crest itself acts as a shield for this child's protection. Here, parents are called on to protect their children from the dark, sad ramifications of poor dental hygiene. The ad in the top right also relies on pathos. Here, the emotions evoked are hope and happiness. Its audience is probably younger people who want to be strong, healthy, and hopeful and who are looking forward to their future, and Crest will help them to achieve those desires. The ad in the bottom left relies primarily on pathos. The emotion evoked here is fear, the fear of losing one's teeth and the fear of feeling pain. People do not want to lose their teeth, and they certainly do not want to experience the pain that accompanies having one's teeth pulled for dentures. The ad in the bottom middle relies primarily on ethos. Like the Muscle Milk ad with Steph Curry, a 5-time Olympic gold medalist endorses and suggests that he uses Crest toothpaste. If he uses it, then so should you. This is assuming you find this Olympian a credible or trustworthy source. The ad in the bottom right relies primarily on pathos, but an argument could also be made that this is logos. Here, we are promised to eat as much candy as we like without fear of getting cavities. So we are promised happiness and pleasure without consequence. However, we could also argue that Crest is claiming that its toothpaste is so effective that no amount of candy eating will negate its effects. I lean more on the pathos side here, but I could probably craft a few premises that would lead to the conclusion this ad presents as its claim. So now we're moving to the rhetorical situation. Lloyd Bitzer nicely laid out for us what is known as the rhetorical situation. Now, I wouldn't say he invented it, but from the annals of rhetorical thought and treatises, he exposed this underlying view of rhetoric for us. Whereas we turn to Aristotle to find the claim and its kind of proofs, how the author set out to prove the claim, Bitzer looks at where, when, who, and how persuasion takes place. To understand and to analyze the persuasiveness of a text, asking questions about author, audience, exigence, purpose, and message, we have a better understanding of how persuasion works and how it affects audiences. Bitzer would ask, who is the author? And one thing to be careful about when determining the author of a text is not to treat the question as if it's a fill-in-the-blank question. Here, McDonald's is obviously the author, but what is McDonald's? What does it do? What kind of author is it? How is it related to other people, entities, organizations, etc.? What is its history? Knowing as much as you can about your author will help you to answer and to make sense of the other elements of the rhetorical situation. Here we have another of those college is not worth it social media posts. Often on social media, we do not know who the author is. Screen names like BadDog2317 do not tell us much, but we can try to make some assumptions about the author and at least craft a profile. Here, it's likely that the author is not a college graduate, and certainly not one who has a BA in philosophy. We can guess this for a couple of reasons. One, most people do not criticize their own choices and share their failures on social media. And number two, people with BAs in philosophy do not apply for philosopher jobs. They search for professorships, teaching positions, etc., but not philosopher jobs. Also notice the photo of the college student is stereotypical. A guy with a man bun wearing a college sweatshirt and drinking heavily. And yes, this does happen in college, and there are some of these guys running around on campuses, but this is kind of cliche, Animal House representation of college students. So our author is probably not a college grad and probably didn't spend a lot of time in college. We may also guess that this author has little ethos in regards to what happens in college or what to do with a college degree. From this point, however, we are mostly guessing about the author, and we want to be careful not to fabricate or to become overly critical, but we do want to try to make some safe guesses. Now, the author probably is a blue-collar worker in some type of construction, services, technical field. Our Joe in this meme or this post is a skilled electrician doing hard and dangerous work. We may guess that the author knows someone like Joe or that the author is like Joe. And the goal when asking who is the author is to learn as much about the author as possible. Do not settle for a one-word author like McDonald's or an online poster. After identifying the author, Bitzer would ask, who's the audience? Here, like we did with the unknown author post, we do our best to determine who the author is trying to reach. That is why knowing as much as possible about the author is important. If our audience were reduced to one word, bikers, we would miss a lot about our audience. Which of the biker audiences here would you target to sell fruit juice, and which would you target to sell cold beer? So demographics, nationality, culture, race, gender, geographies, and a whole host of other characteristics and factors that make people distinctive from one another must be considered when we are trying to identify our audience. We also want to consider ideologies, worldviews, lifestyles, etc. Here we have our stereotypical good guys dressed in blue uniforms. They probably stand for law and order. They probably would resonate with ads that evoke fear and call for protection or heroism. Their opposites, dressed in black and with their faces covered, represent the bad guys. How would a rhetor attempt to persuade this group to buy a product, to join a group, vote for a certain candidate? Here are examples of gun advertisements targeting different audiences. On the left, the audience is women. We have some ethos. This lady is recognizable in the shooting world. We also have some pathos. She carries a gun because it's her choice and her right, evoking feelings or values of freedom, protection, overcoming fear, independence. Notice the clouds on the horizon. This woman is prepared to face the dangers that lurk about. Her facial expression is strong, serious, unafraid, and powerful. She's looking directly into the camera and making eye contact. In the ad on the right, men as the protectors of home and family are the target audience. He's aiming down sights, confronting the danger, and protecting the frightened and weak mother and child behind him. Here, the ad resonates with those who feared their homes being invaded or their families being harmed, and they feel empowered, stronger, and equally as dangerous as our bad guys when armed with this weapon. We next want to consider what is the exigence. And what this means is, what reason is there for rhetorical communication? What situation exists? What bad thing may happen? What cause is there for an author to persuade an audience? In the windshield wiper ad, the exigence is a dangerous situation. Notice the dark clouds and the rain on the windshield. Without these awesome wipers, drivers cannot see. They will run off the road and hit things, causing harm to themselves, to others, and to their properties, to their car. We have a bit of logos here too. Notice how there are no drops on the wiped part of the windshield. These wipers erase the exigence. On the right, we have hikers in a desolate, arid, and hot desert scene. The exigence is that they may have a heat stroke or die from hyperthermia, but this product produces a mist that helps to keep the body cool when in extreme heat conditions. It solves, or at least helps to reduce, the exigence. On the left here, an elderly person lives alone. In the event of an emergency, I've fallen and I can't get up. You've seen that before, heard that before. This woman may not be able to call for help. This is the exigence. The life alert is a push-button device worn around the neck that solves the exigence. On the right, the exigence here is how to prove betrayal or adultery in court. Generally, cheating spouses conceal their activities, and most are not likely to be forthcoming when confronted. So, if you're trying to convince a judge that your spouse committed adultery, this app will resolve the exigence. It finds and stores the evidence needed to get a divorce or to prevent a cheating spouse from getting alimony or whatever you need it for. The previous ads we looked at were representations of exigencies that exist in the world. Assaults, home invasion, extreme weather conditions, cheating spouses, you get it. In these ads that we see now, the exigencies are created to persuade audiences to act. On the left, there's a sale, and that's good. Some people may be prompted simply by saving money. But if we add that the sale is for a limited time only, we now have a temporary exigence. The sale is a good one, but I have to act now. This is FOMO, or the fear of missing out, and we see this all of the time. Now on the right, we have juxtaposed the exigence of war with love and peace. And here, the contrast between exigence and, I guess, non-exigence is used as a device to sell Axe body spray. This is a not so common use of exigence, but it's pretty creative, and this is a smart use of it. Once we know the author, once we know the audience, and what reason there may be for rhetorical speech, we then have to ask, what is the purpose of the particular text we are analyzing? The ad on the right is a public service announcement, and it uses the fear of aging quickly to persuade women, those who are concerned with this particular exigence, not to smoke cigarettes. On the right, an energy company is bolstering its perception. XTO Energy, and say I did my research on author, is a subsidiary of ExxonMobil, and it produces oil and natural gas products. Because oil and gas companies are often perceived as harmful for the environment, their exigents, they often run the clean and natural ads to counter these perceptions. Here, the purpose is to improve or to develop XTO's brand perception. The purpose of the ad on the right here is to sell jewelry. Recall the Eau de Gaga ad. If you wear the perfume, you will be powerful and men will submit to you. Here we have kind of the opposite. Even if you're an unattractive fellow, if you buy a large enough diamond ring, you will be seen as a prince by the ladies. This is a play on a fairy tale, and I cannot remember which one, and it follows the same line of thinking as the Gaga perfume ad. Its purpose, its rhetorical purpose, is to sell jewelry. On the right, this ad's purpose is to persuade audiences to watch The Vampire Diaries. What possibly could be its exigence? That is a good question. Here, The Vampire Diaries streams on Netflix, and it competes with thousands of other choices available to viewers. So it advertises the series to attract viewers. If it has no viewers, the show will be pulled from the platform. It will sell no merchandise, and its producers and the platform will make no money from the show. So there is your exigence. Bitzer also asked, what is the message? Now recall in the previous lesson, we distinguished message and purpose with the Crest toothpaste ads. But quite often, the message overlaps with or is the same as the text debatable claim. The message is often a part of the proof. In the Corona ad, the message is that this product will make you forget your worries, and this is a very popular message that resonates with lots of people. Here, instead of actual time, like 9 a.m. and 5 p.m., time is marked by high tide and low tide. With this product, you forget your worries and life is a beach. On the right, we are asked to read a review of the Galaxy S20's new camera function. To convince us to read, the visual image demonstrates the camera is capable of creating images that have depth of field attributes similar to high-end cameras. The phone's 3 lenses are in focus and emphasized by the nicely out-of-focus background. The message here is that this phone is comparable to photography cameras. Now, I do admit that you have to know a little bit about photography and cameras to get this message, but this is probably the author's target audience anyway. The message in the political sign on the left is that Propositions 1 and 2 are bad for the people in Bossier Parish, and Parish is a county for you non-Louisianians. Its purpose is to scare voters into voting against Proposition 1 and 2. The text on the right is mostly informative. If it's persuasive, it relies on logos. Its purpose is to inform people about wearing and maintaining their masks. The logos here are in the visual representations of what not to do and by using big red X's to demonstrate that. It's a good poster because the audience need not be able to read to know what to do with their mask. Here we have 2 similar texts. The purpose of the ad on the left is to make the public aware of a danger and to ask for help or ask that they be vigilant. On the right, the purpose is to have people help to find a missing pet. Notice here the messages are almost similar. Please help us find fill in the blank. But the purposes are different, and each relies on a different exigence. So let's look at our Crest ad again. But this time, we will pick out some of the rhetorical situation elements. Remember again, the purpose of all of these ads are to sell Crest products. They rely on different means of persuasion, logos, ethos, and pathos, but what also can we determine about them considering the rhetorical situation? The ad on the top left is probably for an adult audience. There are no kids, no happy people, no dire consequences depicted. It is clean, almost clinical with that metal tray, and the colors are blue and white, excluding the red letter C in the Crest logo. It depicts the product and clean, easy to read text listing its benefits. The ad in the top middle is targeted at parents. Young kids may relate to the child in the ad, but he looks sad. He's not a happy bunny on a cereal box, but for parents, this child looks sick. The child looks sad. He needs a hug and some medicine or toothpaste in this case. The exigence is that your child will suffer if you don't prevent his teeth from decaying. The ad in the top right is targeted at young, healthy, active people. The exigence here is not readily apparent, rather it's created. Future-proof your mouth is the linguistic element that helps to establish the exigence. Here, Crest alludes to a possible consequence of poor dental hygiene and offers its product as a resolution to the exigence. The ad in the bottom left points to the same exigence, but it relies on fear to get its point across. The audience here are likely older adults who may see crowns, caps, and dentures in their near futures. This product, Crest, may save them from those consequences. The ad in the bottom middle is kind of tricky. It relies on the celebrity ethos of this Olympian. Its audience are probably people who admire or look up to athletes and successful trophy-winning people. But what could be the exigence here, and how does this ad respond to it? And that is the trick. Let me throw some ideas at you. Consider the emotions of envy and emulation, and also consider the act of mimicry. What do I mean by these? When we emulate someone or we are envious of someone, we see what other people have and we feel some kind of distress because we don't have it also. Now, this is not contempt where we dislike people for having things that we don't have. This is where we see people having things and we could have that too, or we feel like we deserve that too. So we're not angry at the other person for having these things. Anyway, we set out to acquire the same type of honor, perception, wealth, reputation, or things that those we emulate also already have. And this is kind of an ongoing, internalized, individualized exigence that we all experience. If I wished that I were an Olympic gold medalist, I may emulate those who are. I may mimic them by purchasing the kinds of clothes they wear, the kinds of cars they drive, and in this case, I might use the same toothpaste they use. The ad on the bottom right highlights an ongoing exigence. People are susceptible to causing themselves harm by overindulgence. In this case, eating candy will cause your teeth to form cavities, to rot, and then to fall out. And the Crest toothpaste resolves or at least delays the exigence. And I think its target here are parents of children, but it is also applicable to adults who have a sweet tooth. So let's put all this together. What would Aristitzer do? And let's join this with the modes and design elements and kind of create a list of questions that we should ask when we're doing our analyses. And then we'll work towards how the modes and design elements are used persuasively in visual texts. So we have from Aristitzer the following questions to answer. Who or what is the author? Who is the audience? What is the exigence? What is the rhetorical purpose? What is the text message or claim? How is the message or the claim proven using logos, ethos, or pathos? And then, how are the modes used to prove the claim? And how are design elements used to prove the claim? I selected this advertisement because it has a lot going on. And those of you who want to analyze paintings or text with very limited modal elements are hurting yourselves for this assignment. You run out of things to write about, and then you engage in things like quadruple spacing between your paragraphs or repeating yourselves in an effort to make your essays look longer. Pick something like this ad and you will not run out of things to write about. Anyway, so who is the author? Here is a dog food producer. Now this is a stock ad, so let's just pretend that it's Purina. Purina is a company that produces dog and cat food. It began in 1894. In 2001, it was acquired by Nestle. And so that makes Purina a conglomerate of a very large food production corporation. So if we back out for a minute, our author is a for-profit corporation. It makes products that it sells for profit. We need to keep that in mind. Who is the audience for this ad? Now, definitely pet owners and dog owners specifically are its audience. And what do we know about most pet owners? Let's analyze our audience a little bit. They love their pets. They give their pets names. They think of their dogs and cats as if members of the family. They feed, water, bathe, groom, and take them to the vet when they need care. This product is targeted for an audience who feels love for their pets. They care about the health and happiness of their pets the way that parents care about their children's teeth. So Purina is not selling wax for cars or filters for air conditioning units here. This is a product for animals that its audiences care about. And much of the same means of persuasion that work on parents will likely work on this audience as well. What is the exigence? Pets are biological like human beings. They get sick. They feel pain. They may be healthy or unhealthy. And like humans, they also die. And we want to prevent their sickness, their pain, and delay their deaths. We want them to be healthy. By doing these things, pet owners, we, as pet owners, avoid or delay the distress, sorrow, sadness, and pain that comes with losing a pet. This product resolves or alleviates the exigence. It is all natural, and that's good for pets. It tastes good. That makes our pets happy. And it is the best, according to the ad, and our pets deserve the best. Additionally, it is good for their coats, their eyes, and their teeth, or at least it makes those things look good. So, this product resolves an ongoing exigence that is of great concern for the target audience, the health and well-being of their pets. What's the rhetorical purpose? Firstly and primarily, it is to persuade the target audience to buy this product. We could also argue that it helps to contribute to the brand's perceptions. The visual, linguistic, and gestural elements in this ad convey a clean, natural, and happy product, but we will look more into the modes and design elements in just a moment. And what is the message of this ad? Here, the message responds to the exigence. The message here is this Purina natural formula dog food is a healthy choice for your pet. Its claim is along the same lines, but remember, our claims have to be debatable. Here, the claim is that this Purina natural formula dog food is the best choice for your pet. And also somewhat debatable, your pet deserves it. So now let's look at the means of persuasion used in this ad. Let's start with logos. The linguistic elements list and explain this product's merits. It is a natural formula, and we are to assume this means it is not a chemically produced knockoff of what dogs eat. It uses real chicken and real beef, and it causes a healthy-looking animal. Also, because it is well balanced, I am getting that it has the right amounts of protein, fats, vitamins, fiber, and all that kind of good stuff that pets need. That this product is all natural is also supported by visual elements. We have blue skies, green grass, pristine mountains with cool, clean air, I'm sure. Imagine if this dog and its food were in front of a chemical plant or just a plain background. We lose some of the visual logos that argues this all-natural, good product. So let's look at pathos. The text is colorful and bright. That gives us a warm spring day feel. The sky is blue and sunny. Notice the light ray or the sunspot over the dog's left ear. But the gestural elements really point us to happiness, and this is the emotion that we are getting from this ad. The dog is made to appear like a human with an exaggerated smile and having human teeth. Also notice the light spots in the dog's eyes. This is a sign of health and life and happiness. If those spots were not there, we would have a less lively dog. Overall, this product promises our pets and us as owners many bright, warm, happy spring days, the prime of life. Imagine if the background were wintry. Imagine if the dog was not smiling. There is where you will find your pathos in this ad. So now let's finish up our means of persuasion. We'll look at ethos in this ad. We have in the top left corner the brand's logo. In addition to this one advertisement, you can assume that Purina has been working on its brand perception and making its logo recognizable since the 1890s. The logo is placed in the top left corner because we people in the West read from the top to the bottom and left to right. So this text is relying on its author's ethos to help sell its product by placing its logo in the top left corner of the ad. Also notice the small prize label just above the bowl of dog food. Remember our talk about emulation. Here we have a product that has won some kind of prize or that is offering a guarantee that is made to look like it's won some kind of a prize. We not only get a recognizable brand that posts its name in the top left corner of the ad, but we get a guarantee or a promise that the brand and the product are trustworthy and credible. So now we'll talk modes and design elements, and I would recommend that you do what I do here. Go mode by mode and discuss the design elements as you see them in each of the modes. So in the visual mode, the ad is colorful and its scheme implies nature. Its color scheme implies nature. The colors are green and blue, and even the mountains have a bluish tint to them. There are clouds, but they are not storm clouds. The overall visual appearance of this ad contributes to its message that this dog food is all natural. Also notice the golden border across the top of the ad contrasts nicely with the blue sky. This orange-teal contrast is common in cinema work. But also remember that some colorblind people cannot distinguish between blue and yellow, so this palette may be difficult for them to notice. We also see in the visual elements that the product is emphasized. It is clearly in focus, including the dog bag, the bowl of food, and the close-up of the bits of food themselves in the bottom right corner. Nothing is between these elements and the viewer. They are emphasized using focus because the dog is very slightly out of focus, and the background, the grass and the sky and the mountains, are even more out of focus. To emphasize that this product is good for dog teeth, we get a starburst visual effect on his teeth. The only other starburst in the text is on the brand label. What I do not get here is emphasis by using contrast, light and color, or by alignment, meaning the product is not centered. Also notice that the food is on a table, as if the pet eats at a dinner table like people do. This visual element, to some extent, recognizes or acknowledges that we see our pets as members of our family. Now let's talk about some linguistic elements, the linguistic mode. Excluding the handwriting font style above the word's natural formula, we have a sans serif font style. To really emphasize this product is all natural, the word natural is bolder than formula, and it is the largest, most prominent word in the text. People walking down the grocery store aisle would notice this word first. And I think first they would see the bright colors and the smiling dog, and that would initially attract their attention, and then they would see the large word natural. Purina wants us to know that this product is natural. And at a glance, just glance at this bag, we get happy and we get natural. A closer inspection of the linguistic elements tell us more about the product. Under the word's natural formula, we learn that it is natural because it includes chicken and beef. And on the right, we get a neat list of this product's attributes or its benefits for pets that are accompanied by check marks. And I think the handwriting font at the top, healthy and natural recipes, may be meant to give the audience a feeling that this recipe for this product comes from like an old cookbook, as if Purina took grandma's dog food recipe and packaged it for mass production. As far as contrast and these letters, the font could use some drop shadows or some borders to make them easier to read, especially the smaller font on the right side of the text. I think Purina is counting on the colors, the smiling dog, and the big word natural to draw people in, and then as they get closer to the product, they can read the words that are less emphasized. And overall, the linguistic elements contribute to the logos of this text. Excluding the phrase, "Your pet deserves the best," the remainder of the linguistic elements provide information about the product. Now let's look at the gestural elements in this text. And we definitely notice these, and they contribute to the pathos of this text. The dog has human teeth and a large human smile, while pet owners are the target audience. And I'm thinking adults here because they're the ones that buy pet food and they're the ones who buy pets. This is also the kind of advertising that we see on cereal boxes and toys. The dog looks nice and fun and happy, and most importantly, he's making eye contact with the audience. Imagine a kid in a grocery store buggy getting pushed through the pet supplies aisle. This package would make the child point and tell a parent to get that dog food for Sparky or whatever their dog's name is. So there is an element here that targets kids as well as adult pet owners. Also notice the dog's body language. It is on its hind legs and has its paws on the table as if it's going to pick up a fork in a moment to eat its dinner. The gestural elements contribute to the text pathos for certainly, and possibly a little to the brand's perception as well as this happy, all-natural brand. Now we move to the spatial mode. I think if in a reflection part or an evaluation part of your essay, and this ad is where I would probably focus, is on the spatial mode. I think the spatial mode is used most prominently to emphasize the product. The bag and the bowl and the close-up shot of the dog food are in front of the border. They're in front of the dog, and they're also in front of the background. None of the linguistic elements overlap with images of the product. When we talk about spatial mode, we must also consider design elements such as alignment, organization, and proximity. And to me, the linguistic elements are kind of situated almost as if they're situated in the best possible places given where the visual elements are. So they are kind of made to fit where they can and still have the most contrast. Where the list of attributes move from the right side to the left, reading them over the sky and over the mountains would probably be more difficult. Where the list moved to the center between the dog and the dog food, it would give the text kind of a cluttered appearance. But as far as balancing all of the elements in the text, the left of the text is clean, the right contains more font, and the sample dog food. So if I were to evaluate this text and suggest changes, it would probably be in the spatial mode to move some of these elements around. I would want to get that dog food more in the center. Anyway, that's where I would kind of go with that. You guys have a part of your analysis at the end where you reflect and evaluate and you make suggestions for recommendations for improvements. That's where I would go with an ad like this. The oral mode. This is a static image and you may think there are no oral elements in it, but consider what sounds you would hear in this setting. A soft wind, birds chirping, maybe a bee buzzing about. Consider what you would not expect to hear. Cars whizzing by, motors, lawnmowers, people talking, trains and subways. You wouldn't expect to hear those sounds in this setting. If we change the background, would that affect the oral elements that do not seem to exist here? What kind of music would you expect to hear were this ad on social media? What kind of voiceover would you expect to hear? Quite often in static text like this, sounds are implied or assumed, and you may consider them when analyzing your text. After you've answered all of these questions about your text, consider how they contribute to one another. How do the visual elements work as logos or pathos? Do the spatial and design elements, the arrangement, alignment, proximity of all of the elements in the text contribute to or distract from the message or the purpose? This is how you take your work from a description to a rhetorical analysis. So, why does this matter? You are learning how to do this for more than just writing a rhetorical analysis. Knowing how to do this, just knowing that you can do this with your brain, is something that will help you out for the rest of your life. This is not just about writing an essay for English. Would you select the president because you were persuaded by the ethos of Lady Gaga? Would you select a president because you really like Kid Rock? Will you let not understanding ethos make those kinds of decisions for you? Will you really become smarter like Einstein if you have a Tigo smartphone? Is that how it works? Will you sink your savings into Bitcoin because the guy from the Bourne Identity says it's good? Because people who are tough enough to wear short sleeves on an iceberg must know what they are talking about when it comes to digital currency. Will you fall for that? Will you pay $5,000 to go to the Fire Festival? These people look like they're having fun with sparklers in this cozy backdrop, and they're cool. Ignore the plaid shirt. This guy has tattoos also. And look at the Greek letters below. That screams fraternity, sorority party. And the palm trees, the hashtags, man, this must be a legit music festival. And I really like that they spelled fire with a Y. I really think that's dope. I think I'm going to go. I think I'm going to spend that money. But when you get there, and then you discover that the luxury beach yurts are actually leftover FEMA tents from Hurricane Katrina. And those gourmet meals that you paid for are cheese sandwiches handed to you in styrofoam boxes. Yes, that's what happens. That's what happens. I'm almost done here. Let me get more in line with a regular everyday occurrence. Will you not notice the tiny up to and only see the big 50% off? And will you let the limited time only emphasized neatly by a bright red box prompt you to buy these dresses today? And these are quality dresses. We already know that because we have been groomed to recognize the brands listed in this ad. And yes, you too can smile and dance like this person if you act now, don't wait, to go get 50% off of these dresses. Okay, so my spill is done. Yes, I am teaching this so that you can do well on your assignment, but it would be even better if you learn this, practice this, and just make it a part of how you read and interpret visual media for the rest of your life. That's all I have for you. If you have any questions about this or the upcoming assignment, send me an email, make an appointment, or drop by during my office hours. Bye.